John, recently IBM, you guys did a survey of over 1,700 chief marketing officers.
Yes.
What did you learn about what are the key challenges? What's keeping them up at night?
A lot's keeping them up at night. So one of the things we found by talking to 1,700 or so chief marketing officers, 62 countries, about 20 different industries, a pattern. And when we asked them what are the drivers of change in marketing over the next 3 to 5 years, very consistent. The top 4 in order: data explosion, social media, proliferation of devices and channels, and the 4th is shifting consumer demographics, and that one breaks down into tech-savvy consumers and consumers in so-called emerging markets around the world. What's interesting, is when we ask them, well, what do you feel least prepared for, it's the same list of 4. So that the things that they are convinced will change their profession are the very same list of things that they feel that they're not prepared to deal with.
I get a sense, listening to the online world, that it's almost easier for a challenger brand to do some of the things in this space. As an academic, I get a sense that if you're a large market leader, it seems to be harder to get them to buy into doing some of the experimentation and trying stuff that you do. But I'd love to hear what your own experience on this might be.
In a perverse way, the near death of IBM 20 years ago in the early 1990s was helpful in this regard, because we were all about control, and what we heard for years and years from customers and others was we are respected and all of that, but arrogant. And inside the company, of course, very traditional, rigid command and control, even though we were an innovation company. Well, going through a near-death experience beats the arrogance out of you. In fact, a problem coming through that turnaround was we traded arrogance for insecurity for a while. So now the notion that customers, employees, and others say all kinds of things about the company no longer strikes us as, first of all, odd or perhaps threatening, but a source of learning. And while we never like to see people say things that are true or are sensational, as a culture, we've come a long way to learning from it and doing something about it rather than trying to suppress it or be alarmed by it.
I think with us, just the fundamental idea of control, right? For a traditionally trained brand marketer as myself and many others, the idea of control is one that you don't want to give up. You want to be in control of your brand. You want to be in control of the message. And you can sit in your office and kid yourself that you are in control of it. But at the end of the day, you're really not in control of it in today's world. Consumers are in control of it. Right? You can create awareness. You can put a product in front of people. But people, when they fall in love with the brand, it's after they buy it, for the most part. That's after they buy it, they live in it, and they use it. So we really don't own the great things that happen in our shoes, right? Our consumers own those experiences. So our idea of letting go and understanding that the harder we try to hold on, the more the water just slips through our hands. It's impossible to have control of these things.
When people are brand building, and you must have seen a lot of these, whether internally or just in your experience meeting other executives, what are common mistakes people make, 1 or 2 or 3 of them, when they think about the brand strategy or branding that you said, God, like I wish, this is so obvious, people shouldn't be doing this. So I'm sure you have a knack for it. What are some of the pet peeves, if you like? Yeah.
Well, I think first and foremost, brands should understand and be very grounded in what their core business is and who they are. Right? We're a footwear and apparel company. We know that. We talk about that all the time. We do things like build a recording studio in Brooklyn, and somebody says, are you a music company? Are you a record label? And we say, no, we make footwear and apparel, but we're doing this for our consumers. We have no interest in doing that. I've seen many brands get the illusion that they're more than what maybe they really are, and they lose sight, right? There's a number of companies, which I won't name in this particular segment, that have done that along the way. I think losing sight of who you really are and not focusing on that is first and foremost. And then second, I think I see brands making the mistake where they're talking too much. They're talking too much and not listening enough and not interacting and providing experiences through the brand that are meaningful to consumers.
Very similar list. We talk a lot about the brand promise. We should spend more of our time on keeping promises than making promises. And that's another way of saying that at IBM we use a brand system that has a very simple frame that says, what does it mean to look like IBM, think like, sound like, and perform like IBM? And we have to move across that whole continuum. Most times people want to obsess on the looks like, or maybe the sounds like, but not what does it mean to be IBM. So that's a common mistake. The other one is brand visibility. And I told a story at the conference earlier that when we got out of the PC business in 2004, logic would hold that we would have to massively increase expenditure in advertising and things to maintain brand visibility, because we're withdrawing from 100 million users with touching the IBM logo literally every day to being a kind of a B2B infrastructure company. We shifted the objective not from brand visibility and recognition to brand relevance. And that gave birth to, among other things, Smart Planet, which is doing a lot of work for us. So I think this idea that the brand has to be seen everywhere and festooned onto everything is a false choice.
No, it's right. I often hear a lot of the B2B companies telling me, gee, I go to a bar and I mention I work here and nobody knows it. I said, is it a relevant audience? Like, why would somebody at a bar need to know you? You're selling, like, industrial gases. And what's interesting about this is, obviously they know who the relevant segment is, but still there's this notion that my awareness needs to be pervasive to...
Well, here's another one. I think maybe the itch they're scratching is that they have Apple envy. And what I mean, I certainly in my family, the kids had Apple envy for a long time. It always bothered me that Dad get IBM to make an iPod or something cool. Great brands have to have emotional. You have to own emotions, right? People would think that the only available emotions for the human being is cool or fun.
Right.
There's a whole range of emotions that we feel, and they're important emotions, right? Some of them we don't want to trigger, but there's a whole range of emotions that are ownable. And without trying to characterize which ones we think we can be associated with, it isn't obviously it isn't cool or fun, but the idea of essential, you said something earlier which really makes me feel good, right? You're glad, even though you don't really know what we do or maybe buy IBM stuff, you're glad to know that there is a company that is working on those things.
Yes.
That's, in a time of systemic breakdowns around the world, it's a very powerful and important emotion. So again, one of the mistakes brands could make is that every brand has to be fun, cool, energetic, and youthful. And they all can't be by definition.